Well, D23, the big Disney expo where they showcase a lot of their upcoming projects, has been and gone, and from a film and TV perspective, we actually have quite a lot to talk about. Disney just keeps growing and growing with more studios and properties coming out of their banner over the years. One of the big stories of the expo was of course the upcoming Zootopia 2 film, which got a lot of focus seeing as it's coming out the soonest, but there was also a lot of stuff to discuss from Disney, Pixar and more. I already made a video talking about Zootopia 2 and everything we learned about in depth, but then I also made a video talking about the weird and premature hate that the Walt Disney animated film Hexed is getting, but at the same time I wasn't sure that the rest of these things would be able to carry their own videos, so I've just slapped them all together. Here we go. To start things off, let's talk about Ice Age. I've always been a huge Ice Age fan ever since I was a kid. There was just something about the 2000s. So many different animated studios were churning out cinematic gold and forged franchises that would somehow still endure to today. Ice Age is among the first of those big names that have always managed to stick around it. It was the flagship franchise for the now defunct Blue Sky Studios, and you'd better believe they milked it for all it was worth. With good reason too, as it was indeed a smash hit. The first film grossed over $380 million off of a budget of only around $50 million. The second film increased the budget to $80 million, but the box office to over $650 million. The third film got to almost $900 million, and the fourth did the exact same thing. However, the magic was somewhat lost by the time they got to the fifth film, which grossed $400 million, and the franchise reached its natural conclusion before Disney bought Fox and thus Blue Sky and took it out back to finish it off. However, Disney's not a company that's going to leave money on the table if they can avoid it, and so they decided to eventually revamp 20th century animation and start producing feature films. What better way to start off that new era than by bringing back a nostalgic Fox IP such as Ice Age? We got the announcement that it was coming a while back, and it did have the release date of November 2026 attached to it as well. We knew that the OG cast would be coming back, but that was about it really, nothing else. Here, we finally got some proper news. First up is the movie is being slightly pushed back in terms of the release date, which isn't really a surprise to me. Disney's clearly placing a lot of hopes on Marvel's Avengers Doomsday, and since that one had to be pushed back to November 26, clearly Ice Age would also have to move to avoid that competition. They want Ice Age to do as well as it possibly can, and start their new era for their tertiary studio off on the right foot. Cannibalizing your audience going up against the Avengers seems like a truly terrible way to do it. The new release date is the 5th of February 2027, and it doesn't really have any competition. There is a Disney film coming out a month after that, but I'm pretty sure the bulk of the film's money is supposed to be earned in that first month, right? Thus, they'll probably not be double dipping too hard. The only real major competition they seem to have is Angry Birds 3, which I do not expect to do very well at all. The second film was already a case of diminishing the small returns of the first movie, and I feel like the pop culture relevance of Angry Birds in the first place that might draw that casual audience is well and truly over and done with. It's a masterful reshuffling of the dates, and I suspect that this timing, along with the nostalgia of the return of a big franchise of the past with its full cast, is going to lead to the film being rather successful. The movie title is Ice Age Boiling Point, and it was accompanied by this synopsis. Ice Age Boiling Point is a dinosaur and lava-filled madcap adventure that takes Manny, Sid, Diego, Ali, Scrat, and the rest of the herd to visit never-before-seen corners of the treacherous lost world. Once again, we have a premise of going to a new uncharted place that nobody's ever been to before, but that's okay. There's plenty of ways for them to freshen up the plot, and I'm more than willing to give them a chance based on nostalgia alone, but also because I'm curious as to how a brand new studio and parent company handles the IP. I really love that so many of my childhood favorites are making a return. Shrek, Toy Story, Ice Age. Hell yeah, it's going to be a good time. As long as they don't suck, of course. From Ice Age, we came to the Pixar presentation, which largely revolved around Toy Story 5, but which also confirmed a bunch of release dates for their slate as well. Obviously, March 2026 and June 2026 are going to be Hoppers and Toy Story 5 respectively, and then there's a longer gap after that to June 2027 with Gato. Whilst The Incredibles got an extremely vague 2028. Probably in June though, considering the massive numbers The Incredibles 2 did back in 2018. Grossed over $1 billion, which is nothing to sniff at. Pixar clearly wants the huge success they had back in the 2010s, and so they'll want that big summer slot for sure. Then at some point in the future after that, we're going to get Coco 2, which is probably the Pixar film I'm the most excited for. I really loved Coco when I went to see it in the cinemas, and hell, I think it's one of the rare films I actually saw in the theaters more than once. It's that one and then Star Wars The Force Awakens, and that's probably it. Then of course we come to the big announcements and previews in regards to Toy Story 5, which as I said is scheduled to release on June the 19th, 2026. It's the big summer blockbuster for next year that they're no doubt hoping is going to be doing Inside Out 2 numbers. Whether it will, who knows, but 3 and 4 both grossed over $1 billion, so it's certainly good signs. I would expect that we are going to be getting an actual trailer for this film before long, right? Or at the very least a teaser? The Hoppers teaser trailer came out mid to late July, so maybe we're looking at October before the first proper teaser release. Keep that 8-month gap between teaser and release of the film. Either way, I am pretty excited and eager to see it. I'm still skeptical about whether this film is a good idea at all and whether the story's going to be any good, but at the same time, I just can't help myself. I was a little kid who got to see Toy Story 2 in the cinemas when it first came out. I watched it to death on my VHS tape. So whilst on some level, I can appreciate that once again they're picking up from what was a perfectly fine ending to the franchise with Toy Story 4, after they'd already done it once before from Toy Story 3, and that perfect so long partner ending where Andy drives off to college and he leaves all the classic toys with Bonnie. But at the same time, I think I can put all that to one side for the time being, and just be giddy with excitement like I was when I was a little kid. It'll wear off for sure, but for now I'm just buzzing. The first thing I want us to talk about is the character Smarty Pants, who's going to be played by Conan O'Brien. He's a potty training toy. He's shaped into the form of a toilet roll with little buttons that a child can press that are obviously going to tell you the steps of taking a shit and wiping your ass. Man, it's fun to see my username shared with a character in a Pixar movie, but the don't forget to wipe your ass robot probably wouldn't have been my first choice, I'll tell you that. That being said though, Conan O'Brien's going to be the voice, so I'm not concerned that the character's going to suck or be overtly lame and forgettable. It would be sad to share a name with a character that nobody likes and wishes was never added to the movie to begin with. I suppose it could always be worse. I'm curious as to how he even enters the story to begin with though. How old is Bonnie meant to be in Toy Story 5? She started school properly back in Toy Story 4, right? That would mean she's probably old enough to not need this type of toy around by now. I have seen some talk about her being aged up and that there's been a time skip of some sort between the films, although I can't corroborate that anywhere. It's just from some comments that I've seen here and there on different posts. Maybe he gets dragged out of some box in preparation for a yard sale or to be given away. Perhaps there's a time skip and Bonnie has a younger sibling and this is their toy to teach them about using the toilet. It's actually a pretty funny design with a goofy face and the number 1, the number 2 and the flush buttons. I'm just curious that this sort of thing exists at all to begin with. Is this really a toy that would exist in real life? Do they actually make potty training toys? A quick Google says, apparently yes! Wow. The more you know. I'm very much expecting him to be a comedy side character in the vein of Duke Kaboom. They'll keep him around to do some gags and have a little bit of an impact in the story, but far more limited compared to the main characters. We then got to look at the Buzz Lightyear army that had been teased in the concept art that came out a fair while back. Was it at last year's D23? I can't quite recall. The idea of the Buzz Lightyear squad has been one that Toy Story has toyed with for quite a long time. There was that scene in Al's Toy Barn in the sequel where Buzz is replaced by the fake Buzz with the utility belt and there were all the other Buzz toys sleeping in their boxes. In hibernation, or whatever they call it. Then I'm pretty sure they'd intended to actually use the idea outright in either Toy Story 3 or Toy Story 4, but I can't recall which one it was. Either way, they've finally gotten around to using the plot point. That being said though, I can also understand the common complaint that surrounds this story beat by now. The fake Buzzes / alternate Buzzes, they are getting played out. We saw them for the first time in Toy Story 2, and then Buzz got hit with the factory reset in Toy Story 3, and his behavior shifted over to being like the alternate Buzz character from the second movie. He forgot who he was and was back to being a space ranger. Maybe this will be able to bring something new to the table with what they do, but I can understand people being wary of the fact that they might just have the same old once again. Pixar reheating their own nachos and not bothering to try something fresh, new, and interesting. It could easily end up being a lazy story point, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see on that score. As for the Buzz toys, they do seem to be a newer model. They have a slightly different logo and also a colour scheme that's a touch darker in some aspects. I do wonder if these are meant to be toys that are super old, that there were lots of variant Buzz Lightyears out there from a short span of time, or do we think that the Buzz Lightyear toy model is one that stood the test of time in the Toy Story universe and has had heaps of different editions over the years? I think it would have been fun for them to even look more different than Buzz, to tell you the truth, or to even have them be different sort of Barbie variants. All these different versions of the Buzz doll together to the point that they look like an actual squad with different roles. Oh well, can't be helped now. I wonder if they're going to go in the delusional Buzz Lightyear direction this time, or will they eventually be revealed to have realized that they're simply toys? Find out, won't we? We also got to look at Lily Pad, who's the antagonist of the story, who I guess from the toy point of view is going to be corrupting Bonnie and stopping her playing with them all. I do wonder if they're going to be some overt villain. Is technology going to be presented as being outright toxic and bad? Will there be some sort of redemption for this villain? Or are they going to end up getting tossed into a trash compactor or something? I think it could go either way. Honestly, I think this is a villain that I'd need to see actual clips of to comprehend a bit more. I think so much of this character is going to be from the voice that the design doesn't really give you a great idea as to what they're going to be like just yet. But hey, there's still a little bit more from the Pixar presentation. We got a little look at the opening scene of the film, and sadly, I had to watch it in a deeply shit quality, but we'll do our best. The scene itself was a lot of fun. A bunch of buzzers awaken in the middle of nowhere and begin to wake each other up from stasis. They all assemble into a squad and begin to walk through a big jungle until they come to the sea, at which point we realize they're on a deserted island with no hope of getting anywhere. They rather humorously all turn away sadly at the exact same time and go and build a bonfire. Why do they do this? Can they feel the cold? Oh well, since they probably still think that they're people, they think that they can become cold. But what about food? Do they think they need to eat as well? They then see a bright star in the sky, and one of them starts babbling about Star Command, I think. I couldn't quite hear with my grainy audio. And then they all start chanting it, and they build a big raft, and they take to the seas. Okay, so these ones seem like they're going to be portrayed as being way more crazy, right? They seemingly could barely speak, and so I expect that they're going to be extremely aggressive whenever they come across the lead toys. Or maybe they'll go in the other direction and be very, very friendly buffoons. It's an interesting start, and it definitely has me excited to see more. I just wish I could have seen it in slightly better quality to figure things out. Whatever stream I was watching felt like it was filmed on a laptop in 2012. Before we finish, we also have some MCU and Star Wars content. For Marvel, as far as I could find, it was just mostly a little bit of an update about Avengers Doomsday and how it's progressing well. That it's going to be a huge event. This year, I've actually rather enjoyed superhero content again after a couple of years of waning interest, and yet, at the same time, I can't help but feel that this film's going to be a potential disaster. It has no real build, a lot of the characters have next to no hype behind them, they've had to break glass in case of emergency with Robert Downey Jr. coming in as Doctor Doom. I'm just nervous, I suppose. I felt that the quality of the last 2 or so movies has been much higher than what was before, but at the same time, the box office isn't following suit. Will the Avengers name be enough to pull it over the line, or will this be the first Avengers fail that we've seen? I think they've had a little bit of a highlight reel to show it off too, but from what I understand, it was simply clips from other older movies. I don't think they had anything that was actually from Doomsday in it, so not very interesting. However, I'm far more optimistic about the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which is coming out in May of 2026. Pretty sure that as part of this, they showed off some footage. Hardly anybody seems to be actually describing what happens in it other than Mando getting a hallway scene, so I went and searched, and I did find something that was released at a different convention pre-D23, but it also fits what I've read about, so they probably reused it. Basically, it's Mando busting into an AT-AT and slaughtering a bunch of snowtroopers that he finds within in brutal ways, such as shooting them, stabbing them, setting them on fire, or crushing them with debris. It was pretty brutal and just what the Doctor ordered. I don't know if they showed the rest of what I found at D23, but it basically felt like a full-on teaser. You see an AT-AT fall off a cliff, you get to see Sigourney Weaver's character interacting with Mando and Grogu, you see a couple of clips of Mando on missions and with other aliens, and then a whole lot of Grogu awesomeness. Hell yeah. I'm actually really excited about this movie. I haven't cared about Star Wars in so long, but this might actually drag me back in. Here's hoping at the very least. Honestly, I think that's all the news I really had any interest in whatsoever from D23. We had Ice Age, general Pixar stuff, and then a deep dive into Toy Story 5 with some Hexed and Zootopia deep dives too. It was a pretty good year, and I'm very eager to see how some of these films turn out. But of course, with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of all the D23 news we've discussed today? Are you hyped by it? Maybe not? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.